Should I take off my cap already, or maybe a little bit later? Maybe a little bit later. Look, I remember exactly the moment when I was told that I might be losing my hair. And I know all of you out there had the same moment too. Or maybe you are afraid of this moment coming at some point in your life. And I want to, in this video, just talk very transparently. I'm 31 years old. I don't want to I don't have a big mission with this video, but I want to share my experience. And I know exactly, I was in the US visiting my uncle, who, by the way, his crown, it's non-existent, okay? It really, in my opinion, maybe he should just shave his head and accept it with dignity. He accepts his current style with dignity, which is also cool, but my personal opinion is at some point it just looks better if you just shave off these last remainders, or get a transplant or whatever. But obviously that is not there's no guaranteed success, and it also comes with a lot of risks, with a lot of cost and so on. But that's something for maybe future videos, because trust me, same as you probably, I've done all the research, I've talked to all the doctors, and there's literally so many different opinions about this, which makes it a terrible topic, a terrible topic. But again, back to my uncle. I was in the US talking to my uncle, and I remember that, I turned around and he said, "Oh yeah, you started balding too." What the fuck? I'm not balding. My whole life I was told that I have great hair, that I look great, I'm handsome. Also, my beard growth is very, very little beard growth. And everybody always said, yeah, when you don't have a beard, then basically your hair on your real hair, it will last forever, So I'm like, yeah, I should be safe, Also, my dad and my mom don't have any problems with hair loss. And so when he told me, I'm like, nah, must be like the lightning or something like that. But sure enough, he told me, I went downstairs to the bathroom and I checked, I'm like, for the first time in my freaking life. And maybe some of you know that moment, or some of you are afraid of that moment. You basically take your phone, which I don't have here right now, and you turn on the camera, you film the back of your head. And I looked at it and I was not sure, to be honest. I was myself genuinely not sure. Is this what it always looked like, or is this already a little bit less hair than usual? And this insecurity that comes along with this, not knowing what's going on, that's pretty tough. Now, I'm someone who, I have extremely high self-confidence. Some people would say too self-confident, Some people would say it's over the top and too much. Maybe it's too much. I don't care. I'm quite self-confident, but when I was confronted with that, well, to be very honest, it made me afraid a little bit. Now, for self-confident people, and some of you out there are extremely self-confident, what you usually do in situations like this is the following. You just push this thought away. You're like, nah, not possible, There's this 10% chance that, yeah, maybe I'm balding, but nah, for sure not, right? So then I pushed it away instead of acting upon it. And it came basically to the situation that I was, I was reminded of this through another situation in my life. And I thought, there was this thing, about my hair. Maybe should I check again? And sure enough, what you do is, again, you take out your phone, you take some pictures or you take a video, you look at it. And now for me, it was clearer. It looked like, holy shit, I think something's changing there. And I remember I had this one picture. I was in fight prep. I was preparing for a Muay Thai fight. I had this one picture where I was doing a split, and I put up the camera behind me in order to take a cool picture of me doing a split in the fighting gym. You know, it's cool. I had very short hair, and I looked at this picture, and I was like, damn, you actually see that in this spot here on the crown, I'm starting to lose hair. And at this point, you know, you start really worrying, like, why the fuck, you know? Like, what am I doing wrong? You know, I'm doing sports all the time. I'm eating healthy. Like, my whole routine is relatively healthy. I sleep enough and so on. And during that time, I thought maybe it's the stress, you know, because I was genuinely this fight, like fighting in Muay Thai. By the way, let me take off my hat, okay? So here you see it's starting. Obviously here's 2, right? But the top is pretty fucked. Now I have pretty long hair right now, so maybe it's not as obvious, you know? And trust me, I have done a lot since then to kind of, you know, slow down the process. But the top is really fucked. So again, back to the story, right? I was getting ready for a Muay Thai fight. And for me, the reason why I did this fight was because it was literally the only thing in my life that I was afraid of, you know? I don't know if you have a lot of situations in your life that you're genuinely afraid of, like you fear it. You go to sleep at night and you're like, fuck, this thing is coming up. When I was a student, when I was going to school, I had that very often. You know, you had these exams and maybe you needed to present in front of the whole class and whatever, you know, and then you, fuck, you know, this thing is coming up next week and you feel your heart beat faster, you know. And now as an adult, I don't have that. You know, I have my 2 businesses. I have my routines. Of course, there's situations that are a little bit more or less comfortable, but there's no situation that I genuinely fear in life. You know, even with, you know, sometimes men with women, they have these situations, but to me, and I don't try to brag here, but I feel very secure with women. It started like, let's say 5 years ago or so that I started to be secure and I started to view this whole man-women thing more as a game. And so there's not these situations, but a fight was always something that I thought, you know, I think I need to do it, but I'm genuinely afraid to do it, you know? So anyway, back to the story. I was genuinely afraid of this fight, and I thought maybe that's it, you know? It's too much stress. Like if you're afraid, and I had these situations where I was laying in bed and, you know, I was not feeling 100% relaxed. So I thought probably that's it, you know, stress causes hair loss. Now, the fight came up. I was training super hard for it. I did the fight. It went well. And I thought, okay, perfect. You know, now my life will normalize, less stress, and probably all this hair stuff, it will also be fine again. Now, can you imagine the panic when, you know, 6 months later, it's still not better, you know, and you're like, okay, so maybe it's just genetics, you know, maybe I am fighting a bigger battle here. It's not just a small stress thing, or maybe I'm in a lot of stress still and I don't realize it, you know? Maybe like my whole attitude towards life to like work hard, hustle, you know? The more you work, the better. And I want to do everything, leave no stone unturned to reach my high goals of being a billionaire, right? Maybe that's a bad attitude, you know? Maybe I need to chill out a little bit more, and maybe I do have high stress levels. I just don't realize it yet, right? But that leads me to the kind of big problem here is, you know, I have this big problem in life, you know? Um, and there's no proven solution, because now you start thinking about what could be the different remedies here. What could I do? Okay, reduce stress, start topical minoxidil, finasteride, start derma rolling, eat biotin. Maybe I need more iron. Maybe I should start PRP or some other type of therapy. So you're confronted, like suddenly this whole universe opens up, right? You get soaked into like TikTok and YouTube and whatever, and you have all of these people telling you all of their secrets and what you should do for something that affects you a lot. Because for me, that was like for the like something that in a long time I was not affected by anything like aesthetically. I was always super happy with how I looked like. When I was young, I had ears like this, but that was the only thing that I really didn't like. And after that, I was always happy with how I looked. I was happy with my body. Besides, if you're not happy with your body, you can always change it, right? You know the recipe. It's not like you go on TikTok and people tell you, yeah, the recipe to have a nicer body is eat more donuts. No, it's very clear. You need to get your ass to the gym, or you need to go for a run or whatever, right? That's how you lose weight. It's 100% guaranteed. But now I was confronted with this thing that just keeps happening. Society kind of has decided it looks extremely bad for some reason, right? We're socially conditioned to say, yeah, it's shit if you look like this, or if you don't have hair here. And some people have prejudices against people who are bald. That's still old school, whatever. I think people who don't have hair and have a great beard, for example, look cool. I don't know if I would look cool with that. Super long story short, you're confronted with this thing, and you check the potential solutions, and there's like 20, 30 different solutions out there, right? And so I started digging into all of that, and you start realizing there's a massive industry behind this. And a lot of the people out there, you can't really trust them, because they're not even people like what I would respect if these were people building their own companies to really solve hair loss forever for men, and they have their own solution, they believe in it, and they try to sell it to you. I completely respect that, but there's people out there who are basically sponsored by some dumb company, with a derma roller that promises you all kinds of weird successes. And these people just take the money and they shill the product, and that's it. They don't even believe in this thing, right? And that's, to me, before God, that's much worse than if you are generally convinced that your solution is great, you try to sell it to someone. Then okay, maybe your solution is not great, but if you are convinced it is, and it helped you, then I think that's the much better version of it. Well, so anyways, right, you're confronted with all of these different solutions, and you need to come up with some kind of mental framework of what's the best thing to do here. And also keep in mind that, maybe you're not even fully convinced yet how fast this hair loss is progressing. For me, for example, I was still not sure about how fast is this, for example, next year, am I going to be fully bald, right? Or how is it going to progress? And I basically what I thought to myself, it would be great if there was something that I can scan my hair with, and really in some scientifically proven way, or with AI or whatever, take really clear note of what's happening with my hair. Because I was thinking, there's these 20, 30 different remedies that I can try now. and I tried like all kinds of oils and all kinds of weird shit. But you don't really know if it's happening, right? If it's working. First of all, you need to wait for quite a long time, right? It's not like you will have success or results in the next week. This takes months, right? But then also, these successes are really small, It's not easy to notice unless you find like the perfect, crazy solution, that is going to give you hair growth on steroids, but you maybe even don't notice these micro changes. So I thought, why is there not like a reliable way to scan your hair, maybe take pictures, take a video, and then AI or something, it analyzes where you are in terms of your hair growth, and you can like put in, say, in January, okay, I started with minoxidil, and then in June you can check the diary again, and you can see, okay, since then it has improved, and then all the other measures that you're trying out, you can also put them in there, and it helps you find out what exactly helps and what is complete BS, right? And to be honest, I thought something like that should exist, because it's just my hair, right? We're not talking about like people are trying to basically build these solutions for your entire body, right? Like everything you eat, how like the input, how does it affect the output, right? So you eat all kinds of weird food and supplements and whatever, and then this leads to you feeling some way, or being sick, or being super healthy, or shredded, or whatever, right? But there's like so many, there's like thousands of potential inputs and thousands of potential outputs, and that feels like much more difficult. But still, a lot of companies are trying to build something like that than just focusing on the hair, Like for the hair, I feel like there's less inputs and less outputs. The outputs are simply just, more hair or less hair. Of course, you can think about hair thickness and whatever, the density, right? These things do play a role. But, well, long story short, I thought there should be a solution there. For me, what has worked so far, I don't know 100% what has worked the best and what has not worked at all. Right? That I'm being completely transparent here. The one thing that I noticed is you need to really document the whole journey. Because for me personally, what I don't want to do is take like 20 different remedies for the rest of my life. And then probably 18 of those have zero effect at all. And just 2 of them are actually effective, Because my philosophy is you should take as little as possible, actually, Also with supplements, when it comes to bodybuilding or whatever, the less you can take, the more you can get from natural ingredients, natural good food that is organic, that you know where it comes from, not from some crazy factory in China, but something ideally in your local community. That is the key to real health, I think. Well, so that was my journey so far, and I think the most positive thing in this whole experience, of being someone that's balding is I'm thankful, actually, because I see some of you guys who are, balding in their teens, or in their early 20s. And to me, I'm thankful, maybe due to my healthy lifestyle, that because my uncle, he was also balding in his early 20s. So maybe it was my healthy lifestyle. Maybe it was just God, deciding that for me it should start in my beginning of my 30s, basically. So actually, I'm thankful for that. Now, the second thing I'm thankful for is that this opened an entirely new perspective. I was not aware of the fact that there's so much pain attached to that, you know? Like for a man to start balding, it is very painful. And I'm blessed with a super, like literally a blessed life. So I can, let's say, sometimes I can ignore this and I can look at everything I have and still be very thankful, you know. This balding process does not make me miserable in my life. My life is too awesome for that, is what I'm trying to say. But still, you know, knowing that there's millions of men suffering from this, and we have not found a perfect solution yet. And everybody out there is, you know, telling you this helps, that helps, that helps. And nobody really has a solution. And you see it by the comments, right? People are like, yeah, I tried this and it didn't fucking work, right? And so what this inspired me to do, which is the third thing that I'm thankful for, is it gave me a mission. Why not try to build something that genuinely helps men keep their hair, you know, and do it in a way that we leverage all the AI, all the technology that we have out there, all the studies packed into one thing, you know, an app, a software product, but it needs to be something that's cheap because, yeah, obviously, if you are a millionaire, if you are a billionaire, yeah, you can like get the number one best hair treatment. And most importantly, you can go to a super expensive trichologist. You can ask them for a full-blown analysis, you know, of your hair, of your scalp, of your blood, and so on. And they will tell you more or less what's going on. And then they will give you super tailored advice. And they will put you on all kinds of therapies that will cost you thousands. And you will have beautiful hair. Beautiful. But the problem is that's not available to 99% of the population, you know. 99% of the population, or of the people that have this problem, they can't just spend thousands for this, huh? So I'm thinking we need to think about something that costs pennies and is at least 90% of the functionality of what a billionaire can have, you know? And what pisses me off personally is that you don't know what's the progress, right? Like, you don't know how far along this process you are. At the beginning, you don't even know, like, are you really losing hair, or is it, you know, is it just my feeling? So having something that can work on this, that can combat this, would be amazing. And that's the third thing that I'm actually thankful for in this whole process, that it inspired me to start thinking about this and maybe start building something like this, right? And with that, I think I've talked enough, and enough freely. I'll explore different angles of this topic in future videos. If this resonates with anyone, because I know a lot of you guys out there have the same problem, and maybe just, 5 people will watch this video, but if 5 of you are in some way, inspired by this, or at least you resonate, then do leave your comment. It would be nice to not be alone on this journey, but have some people around us that share the same problems and share the same thoughts. And with that, let's keep going on this journey, and let's try to build some kind of community where we can reassure each other and can together work on some kind of solution. So, bye-bye.